it had a huge effect because we've lost out as humanity on what could have been by somebody's greed. Come back to our big head economists. The impact of corruption and lack of integrity, lack of values, everyone's mentioned these. What's the impact internationally?
Well, as you can well imagine, it's terrible.
You have to put your microphone right up.
We operate in a world of limited resources. Your typical finance minister anywhere in the world has a budget that he has to put together that basically says, this is how much revenue I collect, and these are the priorities for the nation in terms of education, public health infrastructure, and so on. And you can well imagine if 5 or 10 or 15 or 50% of the budget gets stolen away, it is a huge drag on development. It limits the ability of governments to basically move forward with some of these very desirable goals, such as improving the country's educational system, such as providing greater public health, and so on. I remember when I joined the IMF some 25 years ago, to talk about corruption was kind of taboo, because corruption essentially meant that maybe governments weren't going about it in the right way, and they didn't want to do that. Today, corruption and good governance is very, very much part of the development debate. Not only is it a legitimate question, but there is a recognition that if it persists, it is going to drive development in very, very important and dramatic ways.
Okay, so you've been talking, we're talking about the kind of downside, and the positive side would be the values and so forth. The social responsibility then, I know you're in the consumer world there. The opposite of corruption, or at least one opposite of corruption, might be liken it to be a more socially responsible business, for example. You're trying to create one yourself. Farmers has been creating one. You're creating one. You're creating one. So as a consumer, what do you see as the effects of, either a socially responsible company on the one hand, or one that sort of bows to corruption, lack of values, lack of integrity, and so on? Is there an impact for us, just ordinary people? I know you're not ordinary, but I am.
Yeah, but that's what makes them not ordinary, because they would not bow to a company that was corrupt. I think the whole point that we're sitting here indicates that the individual is becoming more and more aware of the fact that there are people who misuse and who do not have the confidence or the trust that they should have. I also think that one of the most exciting things that's happening is that in the process of identifying what socially responsible companies mean, what that means, we're also establishing in the world systems by which stakeholders can be more involved in dialogue with companies, to let companies know what it is that they think makes them socially responsible. Is doing this or that, or producing this or that, things which contribute to a socially responsible definition of this company. But that dialogue has to really be worked on. The systems have to be coming in place, and we as consumers have to know how to participate and consult.
Okay, let me ask Captain of Industry down here. Captain of Industry, that's you. Let me ask you, how do you take what Victoria is talking about, that consumers are kind of, need to be in dialogue with you in terms of shaping your business for us? How would that work? How can I get you to make me come to your product better? What is your product, by the way? You're the hotel business and entertainment business.
But we are in the banking and financing and construction business, and also hotel business.
Yeah, he's a lot of business. That's why I say it's a category business.
But it is, in reality, we are serving customers. So we are developing our products by applying the principle of service to different target groups. That we see what services we can deliver, and we are looking at profit only as a measurement of if we are bringing these services effectively and efficiently or not. But that is not the profit is not guiding our way, but the service is guiding our way. So then when we have some the customers connections, and then we have some challenges coming up, then we apply, for instance, the principle of justice and fairness because this is the equity and the fairness is a little different than justice. Justice is the legal way. But you say, okay, you agree this, and then that it is. But fairness is because perhaps he has to understand what he has agreed on. So you have to go into the understanding customers and conveying in a way that they understand it also, and so on. So this is always the same, that you must go, as you say, to the root, and the root is always some principles, some values that are there, and then you must apply them. And by applying them, you are learning day by day how to do it better. And then, of course, you see there are some businesses that are overcrowded. You have to go out of it because you cannot bring something more value added than it is. So your direction of service, but it's like a compass, showing you always in this different complex world how in which direction you should go. And with this compass of applying the services, you can become better and better.
Okay, good, thanks. Now, George Starcher, you founded EBBF, co-founded EBBF. Come on forward and tell us a little bit about this concept of service and the work ethic that you've been talking about. You've written books on this subject, EBBF?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the very basics of the founding of BBBF, this whole concept of the nature of work, the importance of the attitude of service in one's work was at the basis of founding BBBF. And a parallel to that certainly is the search for spiritual applications of spirituality in our day-to-day work, and the importance of that work be meaningful. I think one of the great problems we're facing now is that work for too many people is not meaningful. And I think one of the things we're trying to do in our work with ISEC and other organizations is to try to help them find ways of having a meaningful work experience as well as reasonable balance in their lives.
Well, thank you very much, George. And I'd like to thank you. Just stay there for the moment. I'd like to thank all of our panelists. There were some who were pre-selected, and quite a few who were not. None of them actually knew anything about this. I think they did a fantastic job in answering what actually, I hope you realize, for those of you who don't know, that we tried to hit every single EBBF core value up here. They were hidden. There'll be a test at the end. But thank you all very, very much for your fantastic responses. I think it's a lot of food for thought, and for really tying up some of the, the connections between the core values that EBBF has. So let's give everybody a thanks.
Can I have a second thank you for Wendy, please?
Yes. You don't get away so easily, because we can now take our own chairs back and sit down somewhere.